My name is Darryl Shirley. I am retired military United States Army. Served 26 years in the military, along with my father, uncles, and cousins from World War II all the way up until the present time.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
That was some beautiful words at the end that Mr. Shirley said, previous president. 9 years. It's time. Thank you, Mr. Shirley, for being the present president. I want to tell you just a bit about me and my experience with the Tuskegee Airmen. July 29th, 1934, a beautiful thing happened. I was born. But that was a bad side to where I was born. I was born in almost deep south. I was born in South Carolina.
It's deep.
The neighborhood that I lived in was beautiful, but once I got out of it, I ran into a lot of bad situations because of the way I looked, because I was a black boy. And I even noticed when I was a boy that men, black men, were still called boy or uncle. And I wondered why, I asked why, and that's the way it was. I graduated after 13 years of going to school. I didn't flunk. I did not flunk a grade. I just happened to finish the 7th grade by walking a half mile, stopping for my cousin, and she and I would walk another half mile, catch the Greyhound or the Trailways bus, ride 7 miles, get off, go to the 7th grade for a whole year that we did that. The next year, my aunt took me to New York. PS 184 was my school. Enrolled, and they said, you're going to have to repeat the 7th grade. I just walked miles and miles to complete the 7th grade. I made excellent, like I never failed a grade. But so it took me 13 years to do high school. Couple of years as a construction worker in Baltimore, Maryland, I decided it's too cold to that kind of work. I think I'm going to do something else. And talked to an Air Force recruiter. That sounds good to me. So I joined. I spent 30 years, 5 days, 10 hours, and 20 minutes as an airman. It was mostly all very good. Because if I would say something else and tell us that you stayed that long, well, why'd you stay? But I did, only combat experience was in Vietnam. That was 1 year. I was with the AC-47 gunship. Survived that. Got 2 DFCs, so did okay. One of the best units I was in, by the way. Once in combat, colors seem not to matter. Getting back home does. So that was one of the good units that I was in out of that 30 years. Tuskegee Airman, it was during my 18th year that I ever heard of it. How can that be? I'm in the United States Air Force. And it took 18 years for me to even hear about Red Tails or Tuskegee Airmen. Never heard of it. I was in the Air Force for that long without knowing about reading that there were black pilots, that were. I was very upset, to say the least, that the Air Force had just suppressed it. I had to study Air Force history. Is that not Air Force history? It's also Army history. It's American history. Air Force almost lost me. Because I was pretty well up in the enlisted grade. I retired as a Chief Master Sergeant, even though I didn't, that wasn't my goal. My goal was, after I learned what the ranks was all about, was to become a Chief Warrant Officer. Air Force shot that goal all to pieces. I was moving along. I'm on the right track. I'm going to make Chief Warrant Officer. The reason I wanted it, because in the Air Force, or in the Army as well, and other services, a chief is called Mr. And I wanted to be Mr. Shaw. Something I didn't get in South Carolina. I wouldn't have forgot. So that was my goal. That would be a good title, Mr. Shaw. But what did the Air Force do? They phased out the warrant officer program. And they added Senior Master Sergeant and Chief Master Sergeant. So I had to readjust my goal to be a chief. Still a chief, but that sounds pretty good too. So, but I have, since I've become to know about what the Tuskegee Airmen accomplished, and I got to Ohio, and there was a chapter, I sought them out, and most of the pretty girls, one of the, what we call the daughters, documented original airmen, Tuskegee Airmen, decided, sure, you'd be a good president. No, get somebody else. No, I won't. And he and I, he was the president, and he and I would go to the conventions together. Just he and I. And he was a non-stop talker. So he finally convinced me, okay, go ahead and run for president, and I did. Got to meet men like this one sitting here. Few things about incidents we've had together. We had we had this play at the Cincinnati Museum, and every Saturday we would have somebody down to talk to people come by our exhibit. And I was standing, and Miss Darryl was standing, and our vice president was sitting on a bench for two. That was the only place to sit. So the vice president had his coat beside him, so Miss Darryl said, "Hey Sam, move your coat." I thought he was gonna sit down. He said, "Sure, sit down." He's 10 years old. He's 10 years older. I thought he was gonna sit down. Because he's I have had to ask him many times to, Mr. Everett, slow down. I can't walk that fast. So he is one of my mentors. I mean, I love this man. He's my friend. And I've met others, Tuskegee, original Tuskegee Airmen. The one that I'm going to give you a little short burp about, he wasn't from Kentucky, but he had a connection with Kentucky. It was in 2005 when one of our chapter members, of the Cincinnati chapter members, he heard about one of the airmen who had crash landed in Kentucky in 1948. Matter of fact, he bailed out over Butcher Hollow. I know all you guys know where Butcher Hollow is, right? Yeah, Loretta Lynn's hometown. And so there have been a lot of stories about what happened when this airplane crashed over Butcher Hollow. And the historian finally decided in 2005 to try to see if this pilot was still alive. And he found him. His name was Harry Stewart. He shot down 3 airplanes on one day. Harry Stewart. He was also one of the crew members who won the first Top Gun trophy that the military had. He was stationed at Lockbourne Air Force Base in Ohio when that happened. That was in 48.
And the trophy disappeared.
Yeah, the trophy disappeared for a long time. Matter of fact, it's only been about 4 or 5 years that it was found. It wasn't lost, but
Over 50 years.
it was kind of stored, and it was said that it would never be displayed. But this lady her name was Zelly Orr. She took this upon herself that I'm going to find that trophy. And she did. It's at the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio. All those years. Now it's in this where it should have been for all of those years. It's in the Air Force Museum. It's on display. And there is a Tuskegee Airman. It's a nice display now. It really is. So, I consider myself fortunate that I did decide to be a servant person because I saw it in its infancy. Air Force was only 7 years old as a separate service when I joined. So, and I'm not an original Tuskegee Airman. I'm not. I'm a Vietnam veteran. But the Air Force that I first joined was in its infancy. And I had an opportunity to see it grow and get better and better and better. And I retired in '85. I think it was in pretty good shape because we had blacks, women, doing different things that wasn't even thought of when I first joined. Well, it was known about, but I didn't know it. That's what made me so angry. That was a terrible feeling. I was happy to know, but I was upset that why have this been hidden from the history books? Nothing. So, the real story about what happened to Harry Stewart over Butcher Holland is that he and 3 other people picked up airplanes in the South, and they were flying them back to Lockbourne Air Force Base in Ohio. And his engine quit. So he decided to bail out, but there's no bailout. So he thought, well, if I trim it all down and saying I might get in the slipstream. And that worked just the way he thought it was. It pulled him out, but it didn't clear the rudder. One of the leg hit the rudder, broke it about 3 places. And he did. He sailed down in the chute, landed at a tree. This young girl saw this chute coming down, and she said she didn't know whether it was a bird or what that was. She'd never seen a parachute before. And she told her parents, so parents let out to try to find out. Oh, when the airplane crashed, they heard that, so they're trying to find where this person is. And they found him, his feet about 2 feet off the ground. He was hanging in a dead pine tree that he fell through. And he said he must have been in shock because he remembered looking down at his socks, and he said, "Why did I put on one red sock and one brown?" That red sock was his blood. That he wondered why. I got on 2 different colored socks. But anyway, over the years, the story was rampant. The reason the historian wanted to find out the true story of why he bailed, had to bail out. And that was the first time the majority of the people in Butcher Hollow had seen a military black man. And the stories was rampant. One of them was that black man had stolen an airplane, and Air Force sent up fighter planes to shoot him out of the sky. So that was one of the stories. Which it was just they was picking it up after rehab. They got him picked up by the Air Force after they took him to Van Leer, I think, to the hospital. Air Force picked him up. Later on, next day or so, they came down to look for the scavenge, the pieces of the airplane. Couldn't find it. It's all gone. People in Butcher Hollow had picked up that metal and sold it. Matter of fact, say, Doodle Lynn, Loretta's husband, was seen with his Jeep with the propeller strapped to the side of it, going to. So it was nothing left. That Air Force didn't have any cleanup to do because it was all gone. But that's the kind of things I've had the pleasure of knowing about, learning about since I've been with the Tuskegee Airman Chapter. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Edwards, my buddy.
if you want to really check me out, hit the Tuskegee Airman hustle. That's the dance that I do. And I be broke. But now, with me, I know of 5 generations in my family that have passed away. I know of 5 generations in my family that are living. I can name 5 that's living. I'm just one who's always back. Back here, 5 generations has passed. I know of 5 generations in my family. I've had DNA tests done at least 6 different times on my wife and myself and my grandfathers and different people. Because I want to know about me. My name is Leslie Edwards Jr. The way people have suppressed things about those who have had African ancestry, the way this nation has suppressed, the way his government, he's talking about the military institutions, has suppressed. The trophy they won, they suppressed the trophy they won. Why? Why is this nation suppressed so much? The movie that he talked about, Robert Williams, a Tuskegee Airman who flew with the 99th for 43 years. He lived in California. He went to all those studios out there, 20th Century Fox, University of Columbia, Warner Brothers. None of them would produce that movie. He had the script. None of them would produce that movie. Why the suppression? The movie he saw was produced by Ted Turner, HBO. We all know that. They had no contact with Hollywood, right? But why the suppression? Everything about the Tuskegee Airmen was classified for over 30. You couldn't get to it. Why the suppression? And when I'm looking at the nation now, and I'm looking at what people are trying to do and what they're going to need to do in order to guide your children, your young people, in the right direction, to move the nation forward, to make us effective and efficient and competitive in the world in the future. Everybody got to know the worth of everybody, male or female, black or white, short and tall. And it's one thing, the first movie was made about the Tuskegee Airmen, that he keep just remembering him in the first movie. Now, what you all have to remember, how many people in this room is over 90 years old? I don't see no hands. I want to see who all is in my company. I'm 93. And I'm just trying to see. I can't hardly find anybody in my company when I go out. But you've got relatives that's in the 90s, and you know they have a hard time getting around, so when you see me having a hard time getting around, that's my company. But now, what I want to make clear is that in that first movie they made, there were a lot of Tuskegee Airmen who was really upset about that first movie because they suppressed. See, when they made that movie, they showed where Eleanor Roosevelt, First Lady, went up with that flight. But the Tuskegee Airmen knew when he made that movie, they didn't tell her how the real person that took her up. And the real person that took her up was a person that they always respected. But Eleanor Roosevelt, and it's on this particular day, we talking about ladies month, ladies day, and I just want to make it clear how important it was for a lady at that time, a first stature, to come out to the airfield and make the Tuskegee Airmen know that she wanted to honor them and make them know that she accepted them when a whole nation was trying to suppress and hide what they could be about in aviation. And she established, and she continued to establish in her life about how she respected all people. And on this particular day, I want to read this little message. Most of you don't know about. This is the fellow, he wrote a letter, A. Philip Randolph. You don't know about A. Philip Randolph. I'll tell you about him. He wrote a letter. He said, "Dear Miss Roosevelt, just the words in these days of crisis and storm and stress to express my deep appreciation for the great service you have rendered in your own way to the cause of democracy in general and justice for Negro people in particular. I need not tell you there is a deep affection among Negro people for you because of your forthright and sincere advocacy for human justice, because of your attitude for equality and freedom for all people. You are the subject of severe criticism among certain sources. But this has been so much with the pioneers of human liberty. I want to send you this note. I do not expect an answer." That man, A. Philip Randolph, he's the one that demanded that the President of the United States pass a Fair Employment Act during the war to make it clear that in these places that was producing things for the war effort, there would be fair employment. A. Philip Randolph said, if you don't have a Fair Employment Act, I'm going to have a march on Washington, D.C. Okay. President Roosevelt didn't want no watch, he didn't want no mess about the employment. So he tried to get Eleanor Roosevelt to talk A. Philip Randolph out of marching in Washington, D.C. But he told Eleanor Roosevelt, I respect you, but we want opportunities for everybody in those defense plants on an equal basis. And Roosevelt, he passed the law, Fair Employment Act. But when he passed the Fair Employment Act for employees to hire everybody on a fair basis, he didn't have anything about eliminating segregation in the military. But A. Philip Randolph was hoping he would have it cover everything, all facets of the nation. But then A. Philip Randolph, he began to press, him and the NLCP, they began to press to have segregation eliminated from the military. Now, when Truman decided to issue the executive order, in that executive order, he don't say anything about segregation. 981 doesn't say anything about integration. The order is right here. The order says equal opportunity for all military personnel and equal treatment for all military personnel. And in his order, 10 times in his order, he established a committee that would go around and check it and making sure that order was carried out for equal treatment and equal opportunity. That's the thing. They don't want to talk about how important it was for a leader of any institution. I don't care whether it's military, I don't care whether it's a medical institution, I don't care whether it's real. Equal treatment for your personnel and equal opportunity for your personnel is something, they don't want that thing was being expressed. They said, oh, he got rid of segregation. Oh, you can integrate a place and still treat your people unfair. But he wanted to make it clear when he issued that order that all people who was in authority, superior positions would know they have to treat their people equal or get out of service. You can get honorable discharge and leave. Because if you're going to be a part of the military, you're going to treat your people equal and give them fair treatment. Now, because that has been established, then we can make progress and be more efficient. Our military became more efficient and more effective, and we have established how all institutions can treat their people and be effective and efficient. And what we know now, that all these young people got to know now, that all these opportunities are open, but it's based on you preparing to fit in. That's why education, and that's why the Tuskegee Airmen was effective, because all the Tuskegee Airmen was educated. All the Tuskegee Airmen, just like he said, he had to do something extra to finish, but he did. Education. Education. And the young people got to know, and people who support young people got to know, that it's extremely important to prepare, because when you move into the society today, it's not going to be about whether you male. You're going to have people who challenge you that's female. You're going to have people who challenge you. You got Asian background. You got people who are going to challenge you for all kind of backgrounds. But you have got to upgrade yourself, and you young people has got to know that is the only way you're going to fit into the world in the future. You got to be prepared. And people who support young people, make these young people know they've got to stick with the preparedness so they can fit in for the world in the future. Because we're going to be challenged in the future. You know what China's trying to do. You know what other parts of the nation is trying to do against the United States. What he's trying to do with the Tuskegee Airmen, get these young people prepared, doing everything we can to make sure that young people are prepared and upgraded so they can fit in for the future. The Tuskegee Airmen proved the way the Tuskegee Airmen became effective in aviation because they prepared themselves. But see, the Tuskegee Airmen said, Tuskegee Airmen back during that time, okay, they had mothers and fathers, and they knew their mothers and fathers expected them to be effective in aviation. They knew they had girlfriends, and they knew they had the girls that would like them when they could be designated as an aviator who was in the Air Force as effective combat pilot. See, the Tuskegee Airmen, they had prepared themselves, but they knew there was people, their family, and their relationship was such that they knew they could. There wasn't no way for failing. No, ain't gonna be no failing. But the fact that when they make these movies and do this kind of stuff, now here I got to see a thing. They make the movie here. They don't mention B.O. Davis' name. They don't show his picture. This is B.O. Davis. B.O. Davis Jr. He was the commander, just like he said. He took him into combat. This was the commander. Now, this here says here, Noah Parrish was an outstanding military person, and his role with the Tuskegee Airmen was extremely important. But it says here, Noah Parrish was a brigadier general in the United States Air Force who was the white commander of a group of black airmen known as the Tuskegee Airmen. That's a lie. See, Noah Parrish was extremely important because he was commander of the Tuskegee Airman base. And before he was the Tuskegee Airman base, he was the head of the Tuskegee Airman Training Center. Now, before you can do anything, you got to be trained. And you got to be trained at a base that will help you get your act together. He was the person at that base. He was the person who was strong about making sure he was properly trained. But when they went into combat, he's the one that went into combat. But now, they never even mentioned. They show all the combat effort. And the combat effort is what made them know how important they was as a part of the Air Force. But they don't even mention his name. See, this is the suppression that I find is historic about why. Why the suppression of, they didn't want to make the movie. Why the suppression of the trophy? Why the suppression of the history about what blacks had done with the Tuskegee Airmen? Hey, blacks had done some awesome things with the tank outfit, the 761st that fought on the Patton. Why is this press so much about what blacks have done in the military? Blacks was awesome in the Civil War. Blacks was awesome as Buffalo soldiers. But why do they suppress so much about what blacks have done for this nation, to move this nation in the right direction? That suppression is something that has been done, but we have to make clear that's in the past. Young people got to know now, prepare for the future, but you got to prepare. And all you folks, who are guardians, and parents, and young people, get them young people prepared. Thank you.
At this time, we'll entertain any questions from Ms. Edwards or about the documentary. Yes, sir. Get another mic.
If you want to ask a question, just come up to the front. I can bring it over to you here. But
Mr. Edwards, the Tuskegee Airmen were not just pilots. That was a whole unit, was it not?
16,000.
16,000. Tell me about some of the people who weren't pilots, if you would please, if you got a second. Talk about what did you do as a Tuskegee Airman?
Yeah. I don't particularly like to talk about myself. Most people know that. Some of the things, I'm 93 years old. And some of the horrible things that I've experienced as a person with African ancestry is things I like to forget. I don't like to even talk about it. I was a dropout. I couldn't make it to the 10th grade. In Cincinnati, I was cheap labor. I was supposed to be cheap labor all my life. When I got into the military, and they decided, you got something to do for us rather than cheap labor. So they decided this could prepare me to be a mechanic. Me, mechanic? What? No shoe shining? So, at any rate, I wound up, it was really a struggle for me to think of myself and performing at that level. But then, when I performed at that level, then they said, look, we need you to be the crew chief. And then when I performed at that level, they said, you need to be the flight chief. So, but all these times, I'm finding myself performing at levels that the society had not prepared me to perform at that level, at those levels. Because this society, the educational system, had prepared me to be cheap labor all my life. I know how it has prepared my sister to be domestic persons all their lives. I know what the assignment was doing to me and mine. And I know the Tuskegee Airmen moved me to another level. And because I moved to that level, once I got out of service and got those GI Bill of Rights, I kept moving forward. And I wound up doing some things. But the best thing I did was when I was 18 years old, I married a young lady named Annie Mae, and me and Annie Mae stayed together for 72 years. Last year, Annie Mae passed away, and she was right there at my wife's bedside when my wife passed away. That's the most devastating thing that ever happened to me when my wife passed. But see, it's that kind of stuff that has happened to me, you know. Now, with the Tuskegee Airmen, the guys who was with me when we went to school, the guys who was with the Tuskegee Airmen when they was in aviation at Tuskegee, it's the guys who was with you who would inspire you. No, you can't fail. We can get this together. When you get around certain people, they won't allow you to fail. See, when we had guys with the Tuskegee Airmen who was radio operators, we had guys with the Tuskegee Airmen, we had some damn good cooks. And that's very important. So we had there was a lot of women who performed with the Tuskegee Airmen. You'd be surprised how many women, who was handling a lot of medical situations, a lot of dental assistants, who was packing their parachutes. A lot of women were doing a lot of things. And I want to tell you one thing. During the time I was in service, we would get brand new airplanes flown in. Every one of them was flown in by a woman. The thing that really hurt, a lot of times when you're on a military base, and it's a military base, in many cases well kept, we had a base, and when you're at the base, outside the base, the city right next to the base is where your girlfriends come, your wives come, your mothers, your parents, sisters come, because the guys on the base, in many cases, they can take the ladies on the base, officers club, things like that. So, they had a beautiful base, not far from here, Seymour, Indiana. Anybody know Seymour, Indiana? Okay. You know the base near Seymour, Indiana, Freeman Field?
I don't know.
Well, Freeman Field is right next to Seymour, Indiana. John, just like that. The girls was out at Seymour because the guys were out of the base. But the guys on Freeman Field out of the base had a beautiful officers club. They arrested 162. Well, they actually arrested 104 Tuskegee Airmen, but they arrested some of them twice. So it made it 160 because they wanted to go in the officers club. They wrote that book there about that, the Freeman Field Mutiny. Okay. When the Tuskegee Airmen refused to accept segregation, and they arrested me and said, "You're going to do what you have to do to me because I'm an officer just like any other officer." When they arrested those officers, and they called that nasty situation in Freeman Field, they got a young boy there now. He's an Eagle now. Boy Scout, honors memory of Tuskegee Airmen at Freeman Field. A local Boy Scout has created a memorial place at Seymour Airport in the hopes that people all over the nation will learn about and pay tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen. He built that place out there, had a plaque out there, got that monument out there, and he put a statue out there, right, for the Tuskegee Airmen. Because this young boy who lived in Seymour, he was aware that in the Ku Klux Klan area, that's the Ku Klux Klan area in Indiana. But the way the Tuskegee Airmen took a stand there, that changed that whole community. And he's put that there, and we all went back there, and we had a good celebration with him and his family. But it's those kind of things that has moved the nation in the right direction. It's those kind of things that we as a people has moved the nation in the right direction. And I'm so proud of how people have come together as people and did the right thing for the nation.
I just want to highlight a relationship that was that evolved from two military veterans here in Cincinnati. They were showcased in the film. One was Herb Hilbrun, and the other was John Lear. Some of you may know about this book here. It's called WWII Airmen. They grew up in segregated times, went to the same school, but never really got to know each other because of the nature of the times. But lo and behold, years later, as the war raged on, Mr. Lear ended up unknowingly escorting Mr. Herb Hilbrun on a couple of flights into Germany. After the war, they got together the first time after the war, and they became good friends. Mr. Lear was part of Tuskegee Airmen, and Mr. Herb Hilbrun helped out. And he went back to check his records because he kept all his flight information, his flight books, and he was able to pinpoint the day, the time, the hour when he linked up with the Tuskegee Airmen. And so they were good friends for a long time, and it just goes to show that when you look at people for who they are and respect their humanity, we can all get along a lot better.